A woman saw two babies dangerously near the roadway and took them home. She was about to call the police when she heard sirens outside her home, but she never expected what would happen when she opened the door. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friends. Barbara was driving down the street, thinking about calling her sons at some point. They were all adults and had moved far away from her hometown in Ohio, but she missed them terribly. She had been a single mother and had focused her entire life on raising them. They ensured she had enough money, but they were always too busy. Barbara was lonely. Still, she hated bothering them. The situation was tricky. This was supposed to happen. Birds were meant to leave the nest, but that didn't mean she couldn't miss them. Suddenly, all thoughts of her sons left her body as she saw two tiny figures dangerously close to the roadway. In fact, one was already touching the pavement. Barbara heard the terrible screeching of her brakes as she pushed her foot as far as it would go, not caring if a car crashed into her from behind. Luckily, there wasn't much traffic on the road, and the car behind her stopped in time, although the driver pressed his horn angrily. Barbara got out of her seat, gestured with her hand in apology toward the driver, and ran to the tiny figures. They were babies. A boy and a girl, completely alone, almost on the road. Barbara couldn't believe it. Worst of all, there was no sign of their mother anywhere. This was preposterous. She grabbed her phone to call the police and realized the battery was dead. "I think I'll take them home and call the police from there," Barbara told herself as the babies started crying. Barbara placed the babies in two car seats she still kept, thinking that it was fortuitous that she still had them. She had wanted to donate them many years ago, but always postponed it, almost as if it was meant to be. She drove off quickly once the babies were settled. When Barbara got home, the babies, who looked older than 6 months, were still crying. They were restless, and their diapers were full, so she changed them after asking a neighbor, a new mother, for a couple of spare diapers. She fed them some pureed mashed potatoes and green beans after. Finally, the babies fell asleep, and it was time to call the police. Barbara dialed 911, not knowing where else to call. Then she heard the sirens of a squad car outside. The red and blue lights reflected through her windows, and she ended the call. "They must be here for the babies," Barbara told herself, and opened the door eagerly. 2 officers rushed to her front door, and a woman got out of the car. She was in hysterics, and Barbara immediately knew she was the mother. "Hello, officers, the babies are inside," she started, but the officers glared at her. "Mrs. Ferdinand, we're going to have to take you to the station, and you'll have to answer some questions about kidnapping the babies," one officer said calmly, while the other reached for his handcuffs. "Excuse me?" Barbara asked, offended. "I didn't kidnap those babies. They were almost on the road, and there was no one around. A car could have run them over. I saved them!" The officers ignored her because the hysterical woman had just entered Barbara's house without permission to find her babies inside. "You have to listen to me, officers. I swear," Barbara begged. "Please, listen to me." Finally, they heard her out, but one of them shook his head. "A woman near that road gave us your license plate. We ran it through the system to find this address and said a man helped you put the babies in the car. Apparently, she also saw the mother, Mrs. Lucas, running behind your car, but you continued." "What? I had no idea. Sir, you have to believe me. I only fed and cared for them. I even changed their diapers and they fell asleep. I was calling 911 when you guys showed up." "Look at my phone," Barbara said, and went back inside to grab her phone and show them. The officers didn't know what to do until the mother came out holding one baby in each arm. "Officers, I think she's telling the truth. The babies are safe and their diapers are fresh," she told them, and looked back at Barbara with remorseful, worried eyes. "Thank you." Barbara was only worried for everyone involved. "What happened? Where were you? The babies were on the road," she told her, trying not to be harsh. "I was on the phone talking to my loser ex-husband, who doesn't want to pay child support. I left my kids on a blanket near a tree, and I guess I got careless," Mrs. Lucas explained, holding her babies tighter to her chest. "I can't believe they crawled all the way to the road." Barbara sighed. "Oh dear. Well, babies learn to crawl and walk quickly, but even if they didn't, you can't get distracted. Someone might have actually kidnapped them." "I'm glad I was there," the older woman stated. "I know now. It'll never happen again. I'm so sorry," she said, more to her babies than to anyone there. "Thank you again." The officers didn't seem to know what else to do, but they told both women that the matter would have to be investigated further and perhaps CPS would be involved. Barbara said that was not necessary, but the cops insisted. Eventually, they found CCTV footage that proved how Barbara had saved the babies, and that Mrs. Lucas did try to run behind the car after noticing her babies were gone. CPS made a welfare visit to her house, but determined that she was fit to keep them. The matter was settled, and Barbara found Mrs. Lucas's phone number and checked in often. She offered to babysit, and although the young woman was hesitant, she agreed. Caring for those babies gave Barbara a new purpose in life, and she was happier than ever. It felt like she was meant to find them and be a part of their life in a way, so she could not fault Mrs. Lucas for being a little distracted that one time.